up, MP? Every 3 seconds, you'll be focused, you have lots to watch. You don't want to get tunnel vision. No pun intended. Keep your eyes active and be alert at all times.
Excursions, these little attempts to tear down Hydra, these guerrilla warfare tactics, all stem from the idea that there are still people out there who believe that Hydra's wrong, that Hydra can be taken down. And so what ends up happening is this inner circle, Kraken, Dr. Faustus, Hyde, Arnim Zola, these different guys all basically say, the only thing that we can do here is we've got to crack down even harder. We've got to make things even tougher. We have to show them that if they cross us, that we are going to execute them, we're going to destroy everything they know and love. And so Captain America's kind of toying here just because of the fact that if he gives in to Hydra, to the Hydra Council, and says, yes, you're right, it makes them look weak. But if he doesn't give in, then it makes him look like he's weak on, people who are basically being rebels. It's a no-win situation. And so ultimately what he does is he takes his hand out of the equation in its entirety. He gives the authority to Madam Hydra, to Eliza, to basically go through and implement the act that's going to show the strength of Hydra in the face of those who would attempt to challenge Hydra's leadership. And so when the Avengers all gather outside of Las Vegas to see what in the world's going on, Hydra emerges with their massive warships and begins leveling the entire city. They destroy the entirety of Las Vegas, Nevada. Alright, so getting into Secret Empire Part 2, this story just gets better and better. I mean, this story is absolutely phenomenal. I feel like it's one of the best stories that's really come out of Captain America in a long time. But again, this really picks up with the aftermath of the destruction of Las Vegas. Now keep in mind, for the superhero community, they've been holding on by a thread, right? And that's the significance of Secret Empire. That's the basis behind Secret Empire. And Secret Empire, I imagine, on some level, is supposed to be political. It's supposed to be like a reflection of the modern day politics. I don't worry about that side of it. I just want to enjoy the story for what it is. And the idea of superheroes basically being pushed to the point that they feel like they just literally can't win is very indicative of Old Man Logan, of this just dark atmosphere, this dark future where things are just grim and nobody can really come back from it anymore, specifically in the realm of New York. Keep in mind, we saw in the comic book version in Secret Empire #0 that New York was just kind of sucked into the dark realm, so because of that, there's no light here. I mean, it's just this dimension where there's nothing but darkness, and the darkness is permeated by these monsters that seek nothing more than to kill anything they come across. And so all these inhabitants of New York City have just kind of descended into absolute madness. And this is where things get absolutely beautiful, because we initially pick up with really just kind of a handful of those individuals, those heroes that were in New York. It was briskly lit, so Doctor Strange, Iron Fist, Cage, so on and so forth. And it's really kind of cool, because it gives these minor heroes a chance to shine. I mean, as cool as Luke Cage is, as cool as Iron Fist is, at the end of the day, they're still pretty low on the totem pole when it comes to like the hierarchy of popular heroes in the realm of Marvel Comics. Honestly, Netflix, whether people loved it or hated it, Netflix shined a lot of light on the character of Iron Fist, whereas previously people didn't even know who he was. And so again, it was really kind of an interesting concept, but it really also shines a lot of light, no pun intended, on the character of Dagger. Because remember, Dagger has the ability to create these sort of psychic, hard-light constructs, so to speak, but she's basically the only source of light in this dimension of darkness. The reason why is because of the fact that for the character of Doctor Strange, his efforts are almost always on trying to get them out of there. So he really can't exhaust all of his energies. Instead, Dagger serves as the perfect beacon, as a perfect source of light for anybody who's trying to make their way throughout this city. But the issue with this is that where initially she was able to extend this power for hours and hours and hours and for days on end, it's taking this psychological toll. Her body is perfectly fine, but the idea of standing at the top of the Empire State Building and just emitting herself as a beacon of light for hours on end is psychologically taxing.
The free throw drops for Towns.
Well, when your big can contribute from the line like Towns, you gotta like your chances.
And that's one of the great things about Secret Empires, because it's more than just superheroes fighting superheroes. It's more than just good guys versus bad guys. It's the psychological effect that this has on heroes being put in such weird and strange situations. Not only that, it actually allows villains to shine in a way that they normally never would. And the reason why this happens is because of the fact that we actually pick up with a church. And there's a handful of criminals that kind of break into this church just because of the fact that this church has been getting resources in the form of medicine, different things along those lines. And where some of these criminals break in with the intention of robbing the priest, a guy suddenly shows up, kills one of the criminals, and begins going on this amazing monologue. He basically says, why are you here? And the idea is, well, we're getting what we want. We were going to give you, your kind of the profits, all that kind of good stuff. But in this case, we were going to be the kingpin. And the idea here is that the kingpin really plays this incredible role. It's almost indicative of the kingpin from the Netflix Daredevil series, which I love. Vince D'Onofrio's Kingpin. I think he's really one of the best villains that Marvel's ever had in the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think he's probably the standout villain. But the idea here is that he plays very much the role that we're used to. If you're not familiar with Kingpin, to me, he's probably just a foe fired, a foe of Daredevil, and that's really about it. But when writers actually take to task and write him as a great villain, he is something to behold. He is just beautifully done in this particular story. And the reason why is because of the fact that he basically kills these criminals, and he tells the priest, your church is under my protection. I will make sure that you want for nothing. If you need medicine, I will give you the medicine you need. If you need food, I will give you the food that you need. If you need water, if you need...
4 or 5 from the field.
And Quinn Snyder wants a timeout. He's going to take a few moments here to check in with his team and regroup. Here's someone who's really been playing well, earning the Player of the Month in the East, MP.
And the way that he has been able to kind of create something out of nothing for his teammates has been remarkable. Fantastic and timely passing combined with his vision is something that all players should aspire to have.
Riza Shea with it. He's guarded by Anunoby. Back to Young. Over Brunson. Young's shot is off.
Well, the analytics don't like it, but if the defense is giving it up, I like that shot selection despite the miss.
Now, here's MP. Coming off a stellar performance against Toronto.
Well, Towns gives you some interesting options in the two-man game. He can both pick and roll and pick and pop.
Pass to Larson. Stolen by Anunoby. MP dishes the ball. And here's MP for 3. Porzingis with the rebound.
Not quite enough defense that time around. Just lucky he was off. Oh, that's straight TNT, baby. Explosive.
That was pretty, and he just has that effortless knack for getting inside. Spins. Towns sets the pick for MP. Towns. Rebound by the Hawks. Victory eluded them last time in New York when they took on the Knicks.
And defensively in that one, they needed to come up with big stops to quiet that crowd. And that's obviously easier said than done.
Well, on the road, your defense needs to withstand runs from the other side, and that wasn't the case for them.
Here's MP following the bucket by the Hawks. Clock at 6. Here he goes. It's deflected. Porzingis with the steal. Right now, let's take a second to catch up with Allie LaForce on the sidelines.
Thanks, guys. Well, MP in their last time out against the Raptors had a huge game. He dropped 50 points, and he also dished out plenty of assists, something we're used to seeing. Really just a phenomenal performance from him. Here's hoping we see more of the same from him in this one, guys.
Excellent report, Allie. Thank you. It'll be interesting to see, Greg, how much of that performance carries over to tonight.
And, Kevin, different scenarios call for different measures. I'm sure he'll just try to provide whatever they need for the win.
Well, I'm sure he's coming in with a lot of confidence after last game. He wants to have a repeat performance here tonight.
And Quinn Snyder wants a timeout. He made the decision to huddle up with his guys and talk about strategy. Bridges is checked in for... A minute 20 left in the first. Yabusele setting a screen for MP. Pass to Galloway. Back to MP. And the Knicks miss again.
Well, he continues to make the effort, but the results just aren't there this quarter.
Rollins against MP. Porzingis sets the pick for Herbert. 6 on the shot clock. Pass to Johnson. That's in, and he's now 3 for 3 and looking sharp.
Yeah, Johnson is a wing who wants to go inside. He doesn't settle too often.
Rollins against MP. To end the run. Connects, the jumper drops. MP's got 6.
And that pick takes the D totally out of the equation.
Yeah, you've got to lock and trail hard. You can't allow him a clean look from there.
Atlanta leading by 6. Shot and game clock separated by 5. Rollins against MP. Johnson down low. And good that time. He's got 8.
Boy, both teams racking up the points to start this game.
Yeah, and I'm sure both coaches would like to see more defensive intensity from their team.
Prime time, and that shot was up in time, but doesn't go in. Jalen Johnson, he's been the guy making things happen for the Atlanta Hawks. He notched 8 points in the quarter and has that terrific basketball instinct on display. We'll take a quick break and then back to the action here. And hope you've enjoyed the broadcast so far. Halfway through the first half in this one. In a moment now to quickly take a look at the offensive approach for the Hawks.
Well, the thing about hitting early threes, it spaces the floor and makes things a lot easier offensively.
And on top of that, they've been asserting themselves offensively, getting a good chunk of their points from inside.
On the court right now for the Hawks. The post pairing, Johnson along with Porzingis. Rollins is out there with Cole Anthony. And it's Herter in at the 3 slot.
The desire to win, it fuels MP. He doesn't let anything get in his way.
That's to Porzingis. And the bucket is good. 3-point play chance here for him.
And there's a pattern starting to take shape here. They're working it inside and getting good shots from close range.
That free throw good from Porzingis. Every coach has their own philosophy, but Stan, you were telling me that it might not always align with their team's style of play.
Yeah, look, Kevin, I think there's a difference between philosophy and style of play. And I think what you have to understand, philosophy are those immutable things that you think will win games regardless of the style. So that'll never change. But your style has to be fitted to your personnel.
Atlanta with the ball. Following the miss by MP. Rollins the pass to Johnson. Shoots. Again, the Hawks score.
Another good play. This is how they built the lead, calling on the right guys at the right time.
Yeah, come on. They're just having their way out there and continuing to press the advantage.
A power flush with a long hang on the rim at the end of that.
That could be a catalyst for him. It really could. Atlanta leading by 12. Herter on the wing. Porzingis with a screen on Bridges. Down low. Nice shot by Porzingis. Porzingis has got 5 points so far.
They are just killing him on the interior.
MP with a screen on Rollins. Pass to MP. The three. Another miss by MP.
Well, you can't question his confidence from out there, but it's not falling. Maybe time for a different approach.
Here's Anthony, and he banks in the layup. He's got 5.
They just won't miss. I mean, this is incredible.
Well, as a coach, this is when you enjoy what you're watching. Your team playing well and everything. Just flowing.
Anunoby, he's checked in for the Knicks. And the Hawks making a change here as well. Larson's checked in.
And you talk about building a legacy. That's Embiid's mindset, not just for himself, but for this team.
This is his first chance at the line tonight.
And with an 86% free throw average, you can count on him to come through on most trips.
The Knicks making a switch here. Towns is checked in. Zachary Risacher is checked in for Atlanta. Rollins the pass to Larson. Pass to Risacher. Porzingis sets the pick for Risacher. And the dunk by Porzingis.
Expertly executed pick and roll by Porzingis. Dropping into a good scoring position right off the screen.
Now, here's MP. He's got 12. And the dunk by Towns.
He just punched the ticket on that one. That'll get the job done.
Powerful two-hand jam. Pass to Larson. Hawks passing it around. Johnson, the pass to Porzingis. Shoots over Towns. Porzingis can't hit.
You gotta finish at the rim right there. You hate seeing those opportunities go to waste.
MP dishes to Towns. MP kicks to DiVincenzo. MP against Rollins. Here's Towns. Nice D from Porzingis. Towns with the steal. With the step back. MP outside. Towns the screen. MP passes to Towns, and the dunk by Towns.
And smooth dish from MP. That's talent and teamwork.
Here's Rollins. 23 points for him the last game against Cleveland.
Yeah, but he was also a force on the defensive side. 2 block shots and also altered a ton of shots.
Here's Larson. The shot, no good. Good defense by MP. And now, Allie LaForce has something for us from the sideline.
Well, Jalen Johnson, great in the two-man game, and he talked about how he operates off the pocket pass. He said, quote, "It's simple. You got to read before the catch. Point 5, quick decisions. Just how quarterbacks have progressions with receivers, I have progressions in the pocket, and I read those." Guys?
Okay, Allie, we thank you. The Hawks again can't hit. Knicks trail by 12. Towns, a screen on Porzingis. Left side, Towns. MP looking around. Back to Towns. Anunoby passes to MP. MP nails the triple.
MP letting it fly with no hesitation.
Here's Rollins. He averages more than 12 points a game. That's some dependable production. No good, and they can't put an end to this drought. The Knicks have gotten exactly half their shots to go down here in the second, 5 to 10. Hands it from downtown. MP's got 12 now in this quarter.
What an incredible game so far for MP. He's showing no signs of slowing down.
Porzingis against Towns. Porzingis can't hit. The Knicks have gone 6 of 11 from the floor. Over 50% shooting here in the second quarter. Towns sets the pick for MP. There's the lob to Towns. Takes the alley-oop pass and dunks it down.
Well, nice touch on the lob, and Towns made sure to finish the play.
The Hawks leading by 4. And Quinn Snyder wants a timeout. He's going to take this chance to talk to his guys.
Let's see if Coach can get them back on the right track.
Yeah, I like the timeout here. The coaching staff needs to get these guys regrouped and refocused.
So for the Knicks, Yabusele comes in for Mikal Bridges. And it's Jalen Brunson in for Dante DiVincenzo. Then for the Hawks, Adams comes in for Porzingis. Young is subbed in for Rollins. And the foul called on OG Anunoby. That's his first foul. Young outside. 5 on the clock. Got it. Good job in the low post. Young's got 8 points.
Yeah, you love to see that. Really solid stuff from Young in the clutch.
And Stan, you think about the skill level of Trae Young. What makes him, in your opinion, such a tough cover?
I think the best thing about Trae Young, Kevin, is as much of a scorer he is, he's even better as a passer. And so it's hard to commit a second defender to Trae Young all the time because he will find the open people and create great shots for his team.
He's cooled down a little bit after draining those 2 3-pointers in the first quarter.
MP outside. There's the lob to Towns. An emphatic alley-oop jam.
Yeah, this is what makes Towns an all-star caliber player. He has the ability to take over games by himself.
Atlanta's gotten fewer than half of their 3-pointers to go down tonight. They are 4 for 9. Adams outside. After Rizachet. From deep 3-point land. Larson, no good.
And one thing I liked in the first quarter was their aggressiveness to draw the contact, putting the defense on the defensive.
Well, he's been very efficient in this quarter. Keep getting him the ball.
44. And Atlanta has possession. When this game is done, they'll be off to Chicago as they take on the Bulls. That will conclude their brief 2-game road trip. Larson bats in for the first basket of the game after 3 attempts.
And, guys, they continue to put a lot of pressure on the interior defenders with their work down low.
And so Mike Brown calls a timeout. He's going to take a minute here to get things straightened out. Bull. He's checked in for Gershon Yabusele. Porzingis, he's checked in for Atlanta. Newell comes in for Johnson. Now, here's MP. 20 points for him. Towns, high post. Good, and it's MP picking up the assist. Towns has got it all tied up now for the Knicks. To the left side wing. To the middle. Here's Porzingis. Down it goes. That's 4 made from the field. He's 4 of 8.
Well, after a silent first quarter, this is who they needed him to be. This is why you never count a guy out.
And that one's good. MP.
Oh, nice jumper from MP there. But he is going to have to do a lot better job if they want to try and contain him.
Outside, Porzingis. From outside, off the mark.
And you could tell he thought that triple was going to fall.
bucket inside.
And this is the thing about MP. He has the poise to take high percentage shots.
Young outside. Now here's Porzingis. And no good on the last second attempt this time. And so it's MP making things happen for the Knicks. He has really delivered at the offensive end. He's torched them for 24 points so far. Right back after this break.
You know, right now for the Hawks, they haven't played up to their standards. Last year, they were an elite team. They need to find that mojo.
And shifting focus back to our game, the Knicks are right in the thick of it.
They've been choosy.
And that is it for halftime, folks. It is back to Kevin Harlan and the crew for the second half.
And as we get into this third quarter, as we've seen so far, neither team able to create much separation on the scoreboard yet. You look at MP in this one, he's been everywhere.
As people are being rounded up, but it's not them, well then suddenly it's not a great big huge deal. So again, it's one of these crazy things where it's like people sort of, stick their head in the ground, ignoring the situation getting worse and worse, and then one day they're going to wake up and just realize that their life's about as terrible as it's going to be because Hydra Captain America made things a lot worse than they could have been. Now, following up with Sam Wilson as he's leading the various, members of Tony Stark, or I guess hologram Tony Stark and these other Avengers revolutionaries out to Brazil where Ultron's going to be. Now again, for the most part, not all of them know this is going to be the case. But what we end up doing here is we actually jump back to Frederick Myers for the last tail bit of the story. And this is really, really cool because Frederick Myers, the guy who orchestrated this meeting between Maria Hill and Natasha Romanoff, gets up to go to the bathroom only to find out that there's a mine planted against the window, or I guess against glass. The mine goes off. And the question is, once he's set upon by whoever it was that planted this mine, his question is, who are you? What do you want? This guy's response is the best way to end the story ever. He says, I could be any number of things. Vengeance, terrible, and swift. I could be the guy that could bring everything you love crashing down around you. I'm the guy who will end your life in a heartbeat. I could be your punishment. And then Frank Castle, the Punisher, says, Hail Hydra. I told you this is going to be a cliffhanger. I'll be honest, I love seeing your ugly outfits to cliffhangers. I love seeing how you guys react to things, because you all usually freak out. You all usually like, no!
The guy they want with the ball.
But if you thought the cliffhangers that I left you on so far were bad, you can get to the end of this video. Because this cliffhanger is nuts. So here's the deal. If you're just now joining us with Secret Empire, there have been a couple of things that have happened so far. The long and short of this is that the cosmic cube that was used to basically alter Steve Rogers' memories, to make him into a Hydra agent, to basically alter his past, the fragments have been redistributed and just split throughout the rest of the world. And no one really knows exactly where they are. At this point, it is Tony Stark's Rebel team and Captain America's Hydra team trying to track down these fragments. Now, of course, they have different motivations as to why. Captain America wants to track down the fragments and basically restore the cosmic cube so he can alter all of reality and basically recreate the universe in the image of Hydra. Tony Stark wants to go through and use the cosmic cube to basically fix everything and undo Hydra's rules. So it's pretty simple in terms of how it unfolds. But what we end up doing here is we again pick up with the vanishing point. Now remember, the vanishing point is a story that we don't know anything about. We have no idea what this is. All we know is that it's just some place that we just picked up with at some point along the line. But what threw everybody off is that where the entire run of All New, All Different Marvel basically told us that Steve Rogers, Captain America, as we traditionally think of him, had his history altered to make him a Hydra agent. The vanishing point gave us the correct Steve Rogers, the classic Steve Rogers. And so the idea seems to be hinting here from Marvel that the Hydra Captain America is not the real Captain America. Now, how this consolidates and how this comes together, we don't entirely know. And the reason why this is so significant and the reason why it raises more questions is because as he's making his way through this vanishing point, classic Captain America, as they're going to call him, is basically met by the arrival of a couple of foes. Now, these foes are not significant. It's Batroc the Leaper and really some of his most notable enemies over the course of his publication history, where he's suddenly met with the arrival of Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier, and Sam Wilson. Now, this is huge, because Bucky Barnes was basically killed by Captain America, which led to a lot of events that were taking place in terms of the dropping of the Expendables and so on and so forth. Sam Wilson is still alive. And so the question is, what version of Sam Wilson is this? All we know is that we now have these two characters. Now, this is kind of cool because remember, historically speaking, when it comes to Marvel Comics, this is the trifecta of the Captain America landscape. You have Steve Rogers, you have his sidekick Falcon, and you have Bucky Barnes. All three of these guys have at some point over the course of their life been Captain America. That's the uniting factor between the three of them. Classic Steve Rogers, classic Captain America, was Captain America for years and years and years, and it's thundering outside. Of course, Sam Wilson was Captain America in All New Orders of Marvel, and Bucky Barnes became Captain America following the death of Steve Rogers after Civil War was over, the first Civil War event. So all these guys have been Captain America somewhere over the course of their life. Now, at this point, we switch over to Natasha Romanoff. Now, this is not a big huge thing. This is Black Widow, it's a small little segment here, but this is basically the idea. Remember, Black Widow is a tried and true assassin, spy, whatever you want to call it. She's a jack of all trades, and probably one of the most dangerous people in existence. The issue here is that the Champions team, the team of teenage superheroes who broke away from the traditional Avengers before Secret Empire started, basically joined forces with Natasha Romanoff for the purpose of learning how to become as good as she is. The issue with this is they got into it not knowing that they were getting into it. Natasha Romanoff does not play with any kind of interrogation or anything like that. If you have information she needs and you're a bad guy, she will torture you or she will kill you. She'll do whatever she has to do in order to get that info. The Champions are not really used to that. Remember, the charter of the Champions was instigated under the idea that they basically wanted to help people. The Avengers showed up in the cities and the Avengers fought bad guys and then just walked away and said, the government is cleaning it up. The Champions' idea was we have to fight the bad guys, but then we also have to make sure that people are able to get back up on their feet if their planes were destroyed or something along those lines. And so they basically wanted to fulfill the entire war. Now what this does is it basically begins to pick up after the events of our last video, where we have Captain America's team and Tony Stark's team trying to track down the fragments of his cosmic suit. And this ultimately leads them to Ultron. Now, this is kind of a cool thing, because remember, this all really goes back to the Rage of Ultron story. And if you're not familiar with that, we have not covered it. Comic story figured out. Rage of Ultron was basically a story that was out of time. Marvel released it, and they didn't tell us when it happened. What they did was, with all the others of Marvel, they rolled that over and put it in continuity, meaning they actually gave it time frame. But what Rage of Ultron basically established was the idea that Ultron could effectively be Ultron goes back and he created like these robot versions of the Avengers and different things like that. But the idea was that the story concluded with Hank Pym and Ultron being merged into the same group. And it makes sense because Hank Pym was the creator of Ultron, and the two have always had this sort of unique situation, a very much father and son kind of relationship with each other. But it was only a matter of time before we saw that kind of an event take place. Now, following that, Ultron appeared more times. Eventually, he showed up in All New Orders of Marvel. He fought against the Avengers Unity Squad, which was Captain America leading up Deadpool, basically a combination of mutants and humans working together. But the idea was that following that event, Ultron would basically just kind of been, shot out into space or something along those lines, and then we never really knew what happened to him. What this does is it picks up following the Uncanny Avengers story, and it tells us that at some point, somewhere along the line, out in the middle of Alaska somewhere, Pymtron, as we want to call him, basically just began building this massive city and creating all these Ultron robots. Now, this does beg the question, what would have happened if he launched an attack against the superheroes? And true, he probably would have been unsuccessful. Captain America would have been banking on that, or at the very least, he would have been prepared for that, because Ultron has been an enemy of the Avengers for so long. He would have just kind of adapted to his own schemes and eventually defeated Ultron. But the idea here is that Ultron's just kind of waiting in the background. And that's kind of a cool scenario here, because when they initially show up, and Iron Man's team ends up fighting Captain America's team, Ultron steps in and basically makes them all stop. Now, it's kind of a funny scenario, because we end up getting some pretty interesting debates and also answers to some questions that we had. Most notably, what's going on with the Scarlet Witch? Well, one of the cool things about the Scarlet Witch's character, historically speaking, is that her mind was always successful in keeping Chthon at bay. Chthon was just like this wildly powerful demon that always wanted to latch onto and use the powers of Wanda Maximoff. The idea was that he was never really able to seize total control of it. Now, of course, in this circumstance, by some means, it's never really explained to us, Chthon was able to take over Scarlet Witch in her entirety. Now, what this was because of the fact that Scarlet Witch had a psychotic break when Captain America first launched his strike, whether it was because of the fact that somebody messed with her mind, we don't really know. All we know is that the demon Chthon has taken over the Scarlet Witch, and that's why Wanda Maximoff ended up siding with Captain America. The cool thing about this is that Hank Pym begins to sort of address these various issues that the team have, and essentially saying they both believe they're right. They both believe they're coming out on top of this. They both believe they're doing the right thing. But the question is, who is actually right here? Is it Captain America as a Hydra agent who believes that he basically the world by effectively eradicating all the superheroes in existence, and if it goes on long enough, Hydra Captain America will basically be ruling a symbol. But at the same time, the superheroes really kind of brought this on themselves. And that's the point that Hank Pym makes. He says, look, you guys have been fighting forever. You guys have been fighting for so long. You've been fighting, it's always been a thing. The only difference here is that enemies came fast and loose. But you always had time to basically put your differences aside and focus on those bad guys. But now you didn't have that opportunity. Now, one of the guys shows up and basically proclaims himself as being a villain, and all your chickens are coming from the roots. Now, the other cool thing about this is that Tony Stark begins to goad Hank Pym. And this really gets to the nature of his character, because what he basically ends up saying here is that Hank Pym suffers from this constant inferiority complex, and he always did. That was the nature of his character. He stood alongside titans of the industry. Tony Stark had his Iron Man armor, he had Thor, he was basically a god, he had the Incredible Hulk, who was a man among gods, Captain America, who everybody looked up to. There were all these superheroes that everybody idolized, or had some insane amount of power for whatever reason. And then you had Hank Pym, who could shrink or grow, and that was it. Because of that, it always instilled this inferiority complex. This combined with the fact that Hank Pym created Ultron, and the fact that Hank Pym hit his wife, Tony Stark begins bringing all of these up, which in turn leads Hank Pym to basically lash out. Now, of course, in this moment, this basically allows a sort of Ultron and Hank Pym's personality to negotiate, for lack of a better word, which allows Hank Pym to essentially retake his mantle to kind of get back to normal. But what ends up happening here is that when he sends everybody along the way, and when he ends up speaking with Captain America, one of the cool things that happens here is he addresses the nature of the end result of what will happen. Remember, with the character of Ultron, while Captain America could likely defeat him, it would be a long and arduous journey. And even then, I may very well have been kind of overshooting it a little bit when I said that Captain America could defeat Ultron, because that brings into this question, well, what happened with the age of Ultron? So with regards to Captain America and with regards to Ultron, what he basically says is, even if the Ultron personality wanted to conquer everything, it wouldn't be easy to do that. It would actually make the most sense and let them destroy each other. This is really cool, because what this does is it just kind of had a quote that came from a movie called The Sum of All Fears, where it had this guy who was basically a Nazi and he was trying to find a way to take out the United States and Russia. And one of the things that he said was that Adolf Hitler was stupid. Back during the events of World War II, he said, you don't fight the United States and Russia. That's crazy. That's suicide. What you do is you get the United States and Russia to fight each other and destroy each other. And that's the beauty of Ultron's ultimate goal here. Why fight Captain America and Tony Stark at the same time? Why fight their enemies at the same time? They're going to fight until they're all dead. So why not just let them kill each other and then conquer what's left? Napoleon Bonaparte did the exact same thing. And historically speaking, when it comes to any successful conqueror, dictator, emperor, whatever the case may be, they all practice some pretty key themes that are for the most part unique. Napoleon Bonaparte would go into countries, start civil wars, wait until their countries were at their weakest, and then conquer them. That's how he expanded his entire surface. So again, this really hits at the idea of Captain America having effectively obliterated the entirety, or at least one major temple of the Atlantis Kingdom, which resulted, of course, in Namor the Submariner handing over his piece of the cosmic piece. Again, that was really kind of like that little thread that was effectively coming to a close. But what also ends up happening here is we get this little piece of information. We basically find out that there's someone on the inside of Iron Man's piece. There's basically a mole. This also picks up with the idea of Natasha Romanoff of Black Widow. Now, we don't see the full extent of what it is that she's doing. Instead, what ends up happening here is that she basically leads the champions to infiltrate a Hydra base, but also the idea that she basically picks up with a villain named Viper. Now, Viper was a character who got her claim to fame really as just one of the notable enemies of various superhero teams. She wasn't really like a very huge villain, but she was one of those who kind of hung out in Madripoor, different things like that. She had a pretty cool role when it came to the death of Wolverine. But the idea here is that it hits home at the notion that not everybody who sides with Captain America does so because they genuinely believe in his cause. Viper is an opportunist. She exists to make money. That's her goal. If she can make cash off of war profiteering, that's exactly what she will do. And what's happening here is that with Hydra basically running the show, she's running a narcotics ring. And it's kind of cool because she's doing it under the scene. She's doing it without Captain America knowing that it's happening. And of course, Natasha Romanoff says, hey, look, despite Captain America being a Hydra agent, he runs a pretty tight ship. And if he finds out that you're running narcotics, he's going to kill you. He's going to steer you out there, and that's going to be the end of you and anybody who has the same ideas that universe. So it's one of these cool little moments with these characters. You basically see these small little tidbits coming out about the things that are going on under the surface. Of course, this also coincides with Tony Stark traveling to Wakanda. Wakanda received one of the shards of the cosmic cube when it dispersed across the planet Earth. The difference here is that one of the Hydra agents, Onin Zola, who's really part of the inner council of Hydra, has been trying to infiltrate Wakanda over and over and over again. Fighting against Wakanda is not just walking into some primitive African territory somewhere and then just taking it and then just running off. You're basically trying to infiltrate the most technologically advanced country in the world. Technology that's well beyond anything that most of the planet Earth actually has. Again, what ends up happening here is this hits home at the history of Iron Man. And it's kind of cool, this exchange between the two of them, because initially Tony Stark approaches Black Panther and says, hey, give us your shard of the cosmic cube and we will basically fix everything. Now, of course, Black Panther's response is no, we'll just basically wait it out. And of course, Tony Stark's response is, well, if you do that, a time will come when there will be nothing for you to win. When eventually Captain America's forces won't be held back. You're facing against what amounts to a garrison trying to break into your coast. But what happens if the full might of the Hydra army is brought down on Wakanda? Are you really going to sacrifice the entirety of your people for the sake of the cosmic cube shard? What Black Panther basically responds by saying is that every time Tony Stark tried to do the right thing, he always screwed things up. Case in point, the original Civil War event. And that's the cool thing about this. Tony Stark was like, well, hey, look, you know, if superheroes are fighting supervillains, it's only a matter of time before the government gets tired of it and then just makes all superhero activity illegal and it's retired. So I'm going to basically support the passing of the Superhuman Registration Act in the hope that other superheroes will get on board because it's for the greater good. Instead, what Tony Stark did is instigate one of the greatest political, social, and superhero calamities in the history of Earth. And so again, it's one of these cool moments when it comes to the history of Tony Stark coming home to roost. And it hits home at the nature that no one really trusts. Now again, what this does is it follows up with the rest of Tony Stark's team, traveling to all these different locations, to these different places for the purpose of tracking down what they believe to be these shards of the cosmic cube, exclusively because of the fact that Tony Stark has this device, supposedly, that tells them where the shards are at. Now, of course, what we end up finding out here is that this thing has been wrong time and time again. They've captured 2 shards, but they expected to find 4 or 5 more, but they haven't. And the question is why? Well, no one really knows the answer to this. All they know is that the device of Tony Stark isn't working effectively. Now, at this point, we switch over to probably one of the coolest moments of the story, which is basically dealing with the X-Men. Remember, during the whole Secret Empire event, the X-Men are out in New Team, which is basically this new land they've created for themselves when no one bothers them. Now, in truth, this is done for a couple of reasons. The first is because, well, you know, the population isn't what it was before the House of M, so they're still reeling from the aftermath of that. The other half of this is that when it comes to the mutant population, they're still pretty powerful. Mutants, by and large, in Marvel Comics, are consistently the most powerful community of characters in Marvel. So you have a wide array of different abilities. Planet-wide telepaths, telekinetics. You have people like Gambit who can charge virtually anything he sees and blow it up. You've got Cyclops with optic beams that can slice a mountain in half. You've got all these different characters and all these different abilities. But what Captain America does here is he actually plays it pretty smart, and it's one of the coolest quotes. He brings Hank McCoy over to where Thor's hammer is at, and the question is asked, why haven't you ever done anything with it? And Captain America's response is, whenever you went to these old kingdoms and you would have these kings who would have their swords above their thrones, it wasn't to tell people, yes, I'm willing to use it. It's to tell people they did use it, and they used it to gain their empire. And that's basically what Captain America does. It's an intimidation technique. He basically brings Hank McCoy over to the hammer of Thor and says, hey, look, I'm just the man. But with the power of Thor, I can bring New Team to its knees. I can literally destroy everything that you guys love and that you guys care about. And sure, some of you guys might pick me up, but in doing so, and along the way, I will crush what little hope you have left for restoring the mutant population to what it used to be. Just something to think about if you decide you don't want to hand that shard of the cosmic cube over to you. That's one of the cool things about this. It's manipulative, cunning, but when the question is asked why it is that Odinson even sided with Captain America in the first place, what Odinson does, or at least what we get, is this cool explanation. Odinson pays his allegiance to the hammer of Thor. He does not, hold any allegiance to Captain America. But the idea is that Captain America was worthy of making the hammer. And so because of that, Odinson effectively looks at this and says, if Captain America is able to wield the hammer finds him worthy. If the hammer finds him worthy, then who am I, as unworthy Odin-san, to stand in his way? Now this is cool, because what this does is it seeds doubt in the mind of Odin-san. It seeds doubt in the mind of the fact that he actually believes that what Captain America is doing is right. It's really very important here. And the reason why is because remember, Jane Foster is out in some other dimension somewhere. It would not be that far beyond the realm of possibility that suddenly Odin-san gets back his ability to wield the hammer, and with the power of Thor, rains hellfire down on Hydra. And the reason why I say that, the reason why I say that kind of crazy, impossible scenario could be there, is because when we switch back over to Iron Man, we switch back over to the conversations that he's having with these other members of his own team, when the question's asked, why isn't your device working, the response that's given is, it never worked. It was never designed to work. What the superheroes needed was hope. They needed to believe that the thing would actually work. And so what he did is he basically analyzed and used what little information they got from Rick Jones at the beginning of the Secret Empire story, when Rick Jones said, well, here's the best intel we have on where the shards may be, and basically began to kind of go through all these slurs and all these terms to make it look like the box was leading them to where it was they were supposed to go. Only for it to be revealed, that's not the case. Not only that, we actually end up finding out that the person on the inside, at least seems to be the person on the inside, is Mockingbird. That Mockingbird is the Hydra agent spying on Tony Stark's team. So again, this is huge, because what it means is that there are folks all over the place. There are people siding with all manner of individuals against Tony Stark. And what ends up happening is that in this last little bit of a strike, they basically begin to assault the fortress of the rebels. What last little that seed of hope they have left is rapidly beginning to vanish in smoke. And so what we do, as we get to this last little bit of a cliffhanger, is we join with Captain America, Bucky Barnes, and Sam Wilson. After making their way again through this vanishing point without us knowing what it really is, they basically set upon by various traps that have been set by some unknown man, only for us to find out that these traps that have been set have been placed there by the Red Skull, who has every intention of basically continuing his campaign to kill Captain America. But the true beauty of this story, the true little cliffhanger here, is that Captain America begins to have this conversation again with Arnim Zola. And what they basically reveal here is that this massive shield, this compound of the Avengers can easily withstand this assault from Hydra. And so what they need is a force of unrelenting fury. They need a force that can bust in, that can smash the place to pieces, and that can easily force all the different superheroes out. And so in the last tail bit of this discussion, we have Captain America walk into a room and say, Bruce Banner, it's good to see you again, old friend. God, so I will be honest, Secret Empire just keeps getting better and better. I mean, this story is so good. I've been telling people ever since Captain America was revealed to be a Hydra agent that this will go down as one of the greatest runs in the history of this character. It's so different. It's so dynamic. I mean, I get that there are those who just don't like change, and that's fine. Well, I think this is one of the greatest runs that this character has ever been, because the way this ends is insane. Now, remember, for those of you guys who are joining us for the first time, we kind of have two stories going on simultaneously, right? Like, we have what's going on out in the real world, which is Hydra Captain America basically trying to eliminate the last vestiges of the Avengers, which is basically whatever superheroes managed to evade capture by Hydra, and are basically hiding out in Nevada alongside Tony Stark, trying to find the remnants of the Cosmic Cube so they can use it to basically address reality and fix things that could have been need to do. But then we also have this called the bonus. Right now, we don't know if that was needed. And then the next
That'll wrap it up, folks. Here with Stan Van Gundy, Craig Anthony, and Allie LaForce. I'm Kevin Harlan, signing off for this presentation of NBA basketball.
It's a really cool set of events. But the indication here, at least in the early stages, is as we see it right now, the vanishing point seems to be where heroes go when they die. That really seems to be the case. Because for the most part, all the characters that are here are basically dead. The only exception to that was Sam Wilson. Bucky Barnes was killed in the events leading up to Secret Empire. Red Skull was killed in the events leading up to Secret Empire. And even this, classic, as we call him, classic Steve Rogers himself, is, metaphorically dead, and he's been replaced with Hydra Captain America. And so that's the question that people are asking, and that's the question that I cannot answer, is Hydra Captain America even Captain America? Is all this going on inside of his own head, or is it a wholly different location? Is it actually just another dimension? Is it something taking place inside the shard regards to the cosmic cube. These are answers that we don't have, or I guess questions we don't have the answer to in this video. We'll have answers to that question later on. But the idea here is that this again focuses on the nature of the fact that classic Steve Rogers has basically just been taken prisoner by Red Skull inside of the banishment point. So again, at this point, we switch over to New York City. Now remember, one of the things that we had talked about is the idea that New York City had basically been whisked away to a place called the Dark Zone, the Dark Realm, or whatever you want to call it. But it's basically a place of total darkness. The only source of light that exists comes in the form of Dagger. And she's basically a character that can kind of create like these hard-like constructs to a degree. She's basically serving as this light atop the Empire State Building as a way to basically light the city as best she can. The problem with this is that the use of her powers takes a physical toll on her body. Her entire body goes into creating light. The more she does it, the more it burns her out. She's pushing herself to the point of exhaustion. So because of this, what we end up finding out is that Stephen Strange is basically trying to find a way to access a spell or something that will break them out of this whole dimension. Now, one of the crazy things that happens here is he initially addresses a guy called the Librarian, and I've never heard of this guy before. I don't really know anything about him. I've poked around online and I cannot find like a thing on this guy, the Librarian. He's virtually non-existent. The only way that I can think this character really makes any kind of sense is if we were to come to the conclusion that writer Nick Spencer is basically drawing on Jonathan Hickman's whole idea of the Sinners Market. Now, the Sinners Market was a concept that was invented, I believe, during Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers. And it's basically this other dimensional place where people who can delve in the mystic arts can go to in order to basically barter life energy for power. Now, there's other things to go into it in terms of just being able to buy like black market spells and things like that. That's really what it is. It's just like a giant black market when it comes to mysticism and magic and different things like that. But that's the only sense that I can make with this guy. But again, with Stephen Strange, what he's basically trying to do is just find some spells that will let him break out of this whole dark dimension area. Of course, at this point, we switch over to one of the coolest engagements, which actually takes place between Kingpin and Daredevil. And the reason why is because with New York City having been whisked away to this dark dimension, what it's basically done is this allowed whatever criminals remain in the city to basically run rampant. And so it's really just Daredevil trying to corral them all in, trying to get everything back together, and basically call it a day. But the other half of this is that Wilson Fisk never does anything out of altruism, which is to say, because it's the right thing to do. Wilson Fisk always wants something in return. And that's really the situation that's being brought here. When Daredevil jumps in, basically defeats a handful of Wilson Fisk's men, basically taking all these different medicines and so on and so forth, the question is asked, why is Wilson Fisk helping these hospitals and these churches and so on and so forth? Why is he contributing to that? And the answer to Wilson Fisk is because when this is all done, they will remember. Wilson Fisk has always tried to make New York City his own kingdom. And in a lot of ways he has. I mean, we had Daredevil during the whole Shadowland story, and then we basically had Kingpin picking up the pieces and using what was left of Shadowland to form his own empire, which is kind of cool. Basically corralling the hand. For those of you guys who are following the whole Defenders Netflix thing, essentially what seems to be going on with the Defenders is the Shadowland story, minus Daredevil being possessed by like the beast, the entity that the hand basically worship. That's really the only difference. Everything else seems to be pretty much the exact same. I could be wrong, but that basically seems to be the case. That Defenders is going to be Shadowland. And if it is, I am hyped because that story is so good. But the idea here is that if Wilson Fisk cannot take over the city of New York through force, then
I don't want to play something else.